SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good morning to everyone, and welcome to Biz Talk. I'm one of the co-hosts, Terry Finch, and joining me as my co-host this week is Rick Sense. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Terry.
This week, we are doing another one in our series of shows on women in business. And in the first show that we did in this series, we talked about how business issues between male and female-owned businesses are similar, but there are other factors that are different. And this week, we're going to talk about the one that is the most common general issue, and that's how business owners manage the need for balance between their family and their work life or caregiving and how they do that. And before I go too far, I want to make one comment, and that notice I did say general issues, because there are many families where the men are if not the primary, but have a significant role in caregiving. It's not like when I was a kid, when it was always the mother 100%. And not that my dad wasn't great, but that's the way it was. But now it's a lot or somewhat different. But the fact is, we looked at a number of different studies, and it's somewhere between 55% and 2/3 or 67% of women in a family are the primary caregivers. So there's a pretty significant workload there. And in August, when we were planning for these series, the Minnesota Federal Reserve came out with a study looking at what could impact future mothers versus future fathers, and only working future mothers and fathers, and what it meant for them. And so they looked at incomes. And until a woman had her first baby, it was pretty consistent that averaging all different roles together, men were about 14% higher paid throughout that time. The minute a woman had a baby, that difference jumped to over 30%. And it didn't disappear in the first year, even though the women started to climb back and rising. In fact, 10 years out, it was over 40, I think it was 43% in terms of differences in wages. And so, like many economic researchers where they didn't stop there. They wanted to go back and understand it. So they started to look into what was going on. And one of the primary needs they saw was the need for flexibility. And how they saw that was predominantly women with their first child moved into different roles, either a lower level role at the company they were at, or quite often they went and worked for another company in a job that had less expectations in terms of time and work. Remote work was a possibility, and also somewhere the commute was there. And it was pretty significant in the work they saw and how that impacted it. And the answer was, as they saw it, that families were valuing flexibility, and that impacted women more than men, because the women were the ones with more responsibility to take care of the family. So one option, that was for salaried workers, but one option that people do look up at is setting up their own business. And we know at SCORE, we have 64% of our clients are women who are looking to start up or improve a business. So we know that's happening a lot. And so this week, we're going to talk to 3 businesses and their owners that have built good, solid foundations for their business. And they've built that with at least some thought about the caregiving and how they have to make sure they manage that piece as they go forward. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to the people on the show. So first, I'll introduce you to Dr. Kalista Sawyer. Callie, how are you?
I'm doing well, Terry. How are you doing?
Good. And thanks for being in the show. Callie owns Sprout Chiropractic. Then we've got from the Motherhood Alliance, Brittany Suttner and Andrea Renkas. Brittany and Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Terry.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then finally from 360U, the record holders and appearances on Biz Talk, which I think this might be their 7th, we have Laura Beyer and Maria Stave. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks for having us, Terry.
thank you for being here and talking about this. So as we get into it, then let's just get an introduction for each of you about what your business does. So we'll start with the Motherhood Alliance. Drea and Britt, as you like to be known, how can you tell us about the Motherhood Alliance?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're the Motherhood Alliance. We're a local community and resource hub for families and small businesses. So what we do is we bring parents together with trusted, holistically minded health and wellness professionals and providers, and family focused businesses through our directory, our events, blogs, in-person events, and our podcast as well. And then, I would say our mission is to make it easier for families to find the support they need while also helping these small local businesses grow and connect with each other. So we kind of have two different audiences going on, but that's what we really love to do.
All right. So Laura Maria?
Yeah, so 360U is a baseball and softball training company, and our main goal is to focus on the mindset of our athletes along with assisting with mechanical training. We both played college ball, and we kind of found there was a big gap between like confidence building and where our athletes are at mentally and how are they feeling at home and how are they feeling at school and how does that all tie to how they're playing. And softball and baseball has really been the vehicle that we've used to kind of help train and develop and mentor basically athletes ages 7 through college. Most of our employees either play college ball or coach college or are moms or dads, ironically, who have kids that kind of believe in the same mission of the person before the athlete.
Okay. And then finally, let's turn to Callie and talk about Sprout Chiropractic.
So I'm Dr. Callie Sawyer. I'm the owner and the sole chiropractor at Sprout Family Chiropractic. And just like families at Sprout, we kind of start with moms. So whether you're a new mom or an experienced mom, we really want our moms to feel supported both mentally and physically during their pregnancy and then postpartum care through chiropractic. And then Sprout's also for newborns, little ones that have stressors that they can't really describe in words, but they show us through symptoms like colic or sleeplessness or constipation. And so we're looking to help every member of a family grow up healthy so that they can grow old happy.
Okay. So we're going to go through the same order again and just talk about why did you decide to start the business on your own and how did you go about doing that? So again, we'll start with Andrea and Brittany.
We saw a huge gap in the community as far as we started off as small business owners with personal training, specifically with moms. So we started there and we realized that we could only do so much, and we tapped into a lot of the local resources in our area. And so we decided to kind of take it from there and build a directory that focuses on holistic wellness care. And that goes for moms, but that also goes for kids, families, and we've expanded in lots of different ways to kind of help support that, because we feel like we have a heart for small businesses and we want them to win. We want them to be successful, while we also have a heart for local, fellow moms who are struggling in their health and wellness needs and looking for more holistically minded small businesses to help with that.
Okay. And so as we go to 360U, why did you just start the business? How did you go about doing it?
Yeah, so similar to Motherhood Alliance, we saw that there was kind of a gap in what was being offered and that there was a demand for more than just mechanical training. Laura and I and her husband Scott had done a lot of lessons for different facilities and done we're in that field, but we were realizing that there was something missing, and it was more of the holistic development, the mindset training, and the confidence piece, and getting to work with the athletes kind of beyond the game. So Laura spent 7 years in personal finance and banking, so she had a really strong business background, and I had just graduated with a business degree, and Laura had her first little boy, so it was kind of it was a leap of faith. Laura wanted to stay home. It was my goal eventually to stay home with our kids and raise our family. So the timing was right. And we saw a need that wasn't being met in the market. And, really, it's been a very
purpose-driven mission since then. But yeah, that was kind of our start. And we connected with local resources as well. SCORE was fantastic. We sat down with a mentor and we started by Googling how to start an LLC. So that's kind of our funny. We were like, how do we do this? And we just Googled it, and then we met with SCORE, and they really gave us tools and resources to take the next step and really get serious about a business plan.
Okay. And so with Callie, I know you started as an employee, as a chiropractor. Could you talk about that? What made you decide to open your own business?
Yeah, I think that was sort of a gradual decision. I, like you said, worked for 2 other chiropractors, started a family during that time. And I kind of always said, well, until I feel ready to step out on my own, kind of see some of the things behind the scenes with those providers and them owning their business, kind of observing what I liked, what I didn't like, kind of auditing what they're doing and deciding how I wanted to move forward with my practice. It wasn't until I kind of felt comfortable with that I decided to then start out on my own.
Okay. And so, Callie, I'll start right with you on this next one. You have a schedule you follow for when you work and when you're at home with your kids. How important is that to what you do in your time management?
Yeah, well, when I started the practice, I really felt like I was a little more strict with it maybe. I was really needing to be available for patients because I didn't feel like my business was going to grow unless I was available for patients or available for networking, ways to grow the practice. But now it's definitely transitioned to more of a, smaller, shorter periods of time with my patients, really being focused on patient care when I'm with patients. And then when I'm not with patients, I'm really able to sort of manage what my kids are doing, and the administrative tasks and all the things that, require my attention outside of patient care. So it's definitely changed a little bit, but definitely more effective, more efficient as my practice has grown in the last 7 years.
And could you talk a little bit about how you managed when you had your third child with work and bringing her in?
Yeah, she stayed with me until she was about 16 months. I remember the day that I just decided, yep, you're too old. You're going to daycare now. But yeah, she was with me. I had patients, if she was fussing, patients would be in the waiting room. They'd hear fussing and they'd come in and say, can we hold her? And I would bring her out there, and I have lots of pictures of patients of mine, mostly middle-aged women whose kids were growing up, holding her and just kind of giving her cuddles and falling asleep. And, yeah, that was a really special time. So, we got to watch her grow, and, every time patients would come in, they'd be excited to see how much she'd grown. And yeah, that was a really special time and definitely something I look back on fondly.
And then Laura and Maria, the two of you started out at local parks and facilities. How did you balance what time you had for your coaching and what time you had for family? How did you figure out how to do that?
I think kind of like Callie said, when we started, it was important for us to try to kind of grow a base of clients for the business to actually work. And fortunately, at that time, Maria did not have kids yet. I would say as our family started to grow and our time kind of started getting pulled in a few more directions, I would say we really started relying on other people to help us with what we're trying to accomplish. Our families are always going to come first, and that's been difficult sometimes to stick to that plan. And our husbands will remind us they've been very supportive, but our goal is always to be like present for our kids or be able to pick them up if they're sick from school or volunteer at hot lunch. And then, sometimes that means working until 11 o'clock at night when they're in bed or on a weekend. But I think just having the focus that our family needs are going to come first. We will get the work done when we find the time because there is plenty of time. And then again, I think our staff knows that our culture is family first. So if something does pop up, they're the first ones offering to help or pick up a lesson or pick up a client. So we've been really fortunate with the people that have kind of evolved around our company. And we just brought on another stay-home mom who was very active. She was in high administration at UW-Madison in their HR department. She's our cousin, but she had a baby and decided to stay home, and just the skill set that she's been able to bring to what we're trying to accomplish in creating time and space for us to focus on our families a bit more too has been awesome.
Okay, we're at the point where we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Sawyer and WHBY, and we'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. I'm your host, Rick Sense, along with Terry Finch this week. And we are having a very interesting discussion that I'm going to cut back to in just a moment. But first, I want to spend a moment talking to you about Score Northeast Wisconsin. Score Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in northeast Wisconsin and also includes the county of Menominee in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, and they offer entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail, best practices, and many, many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and or to learn more about Score Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the Score chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to Score. Within a few days, a Score mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, Score is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And to support small business people, Score Northeast Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button and fill out the short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. So thanks again for joining us on Biz Talk. And Britt, from Motherhood Alliance, I am going to start with you on this question. It's interesting when people start a business, they always talk about things they run into they didn't expect. Well, can you maybe give listeners, I'll start with you, Britt, again, and just give listeners an idea of some of the things that you ran into that surprised you, and maybe help prepare those that are out there thinking, hey, maybe I want to start a business, try to do that while I'm raising my family or maybe caring for an elderly parent. What kind of things surprised you as you went through that process?
Where do I start?
Yeah.
As a business owner, I think there's a lot. But my background is in wellness, and as Dre alluded to, we started out in the personal training field. Neither of us had business degrees. And so we decided to start this business. But how do you do marketing? How do you do social media? How do you create reels? How do you do ads? How do you get yourself out there and help people understand who you are? That was a huge learning curve for us through our personal training business. And so when we started Motherhood Alliance a few years ago, we felt a lot more confident in those areas. But by discussing with so many of our wellness businesses, because we are basically a co-op of local wellness businesses, it's a common theme in the wellness industry. Most people don't have business background. And so I think just having to learn all those pieces along the way, when we first initially started our personal training business, that was a surprise on how much we had to learn in the business world.
And Callie, what about you? Are you starting a practice, and what kind of things did you run in that were surprises?
Yeah, when we go through, the doctorate program to become a chiropractor, there are some business classes, but they don't go into a lot of detail. And there's so many different ways to run a practice. The providers that I worked for utilized insurance. So they took insurance. My practice is cash based or pay at the time of service. And so, there were definitely some differences to kind of work through there, mostly positive. But I couldn't, agree more with what Britt said. My experience from the financial side, to the marketing and the networking, all of those different pieces that come together. I was pretty surprised by how much time and energy it took to invest in that, so that I could take care of patients. I could utilize my degree and actually do the patient care. I had to make sure that I, put time and energy into all those other things to make the practice grow.
Okay. And Laura, from 360U, what kind of surprises did you folks run into?
I think similar to what these guys have said, I think you have an idea on starting a business and kind of what are your core strengths, but then there is like a million other things that need to get done. Like for the first year of our business, we only accepted payments in an ice cream bucket, with cash, and you stuck your money to a sticky note and you put it in the bucket, and that's how we survived the first year. So, we learned a lot by making mistakes, and I think that was probably the fastest way to learn, but just how the different skill sets have had to evolve, encompassing so many different facets of business. So,
and Laura, what kind of challenges do you think you're running into now that you didn't anticipate when you first started out?
I think right now our biggest challenge is like it's a challenge, it's a kind of a blessing and a curse, but it's like holy crap, like we're here, like we've kind of gotten where we thought we were hoping to get one day, and now it's where do we go next? Trying to really zone in like what are our long-term goals, and the score has helped us, and Terry specifically, but what do both of us want in 10 years? What does that look like? Are we willing to do more of this or more of that? And it kind of becomes a blank slate again when we're looking forward, as our family has changed a lot and our kids have gotten older and we've gotten older. It's almost, it's not like starting over, but it's kind of like, do we just want to stay the course, or where do we want to go next as we have more time available with our kids in school and things like that?
Callie, I'll throw that question to you too.
It is really now that my time is being pulled in a lot of different directions with my family, with my kids. I coach a ton. I volunteer a lot with the kids' school. It's kind of, where do I want to put my energy and my effort? Where do I want my time to be spent? And so, working with SCORE as part of our, when we meet, it's really nice to be able to look at all of the things that I'm doing or being offered and say, okay, is this something that's going to help me work towards my goal of having that work-life balance and being able to do all the things? So yeah, definitely that's been the transition.
And Britt, what about you?
You're going to hear a pretty common theme, which I think is why we're having this conversation in the first place, right? I think when Dre and I started our original business, I didn't have kids at the time. Now my kids are almost 8 and 10. And so life just looks a lot different. And so just being willing to pivot, I think is also really, it's important, but it's also really challenging. As our kids get older, there's different seasons of life, and we have to just be okay with that's how our businesses are going to be as well. And so balancing those two passions of motherhood while also pursuing the passion of serving others through a business, it's always going to exist. And so I think the challenge is just finding that happy medium.
All right. And right now is the perfect time to take our next break. You're listening to Biz Talk with SCORE on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with SCORE. This week we're talking to Drea and Britt from Motherhood Alliance, Laura and Maria from 360U, and Dr. Callie from Sprout Chiropractic. Before we get back to our group of 5, I wanted to give you just a quick education update. If you go to our website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see a tab up the top called Workshops and Events. And you can click on that and find literally thousands of webinars that have already been recorded and upcoming live events. And there's webinars on all sorts of different topics related to small businesses. One of the changes that is coming is that SCORE doesn't receive much funding anymore. We were not allocated funding in the most recent government budget, so we're raising money on our own to go forward and hopefully getting some government money, but not as much. So they are charging for some of those webinars going forward. For national events, I believe it's $25, but for many local events, and this will be phased in over time, it'll be $10. But the webinars are very good, so it's a modest charge, but it's to help us raise money. So just be aware of that. If you look at our SCORE education and workshop site, that there is a charge for that now. So with that, I'm going to turn back to the discussion, and I'm going to start just looking back at when you started and what were your expectations and what's changed since then and how did they change? So we'll start with 360U.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, obviously going into business, your goal and hope is to grow and have growth over the years. And I think we were expecting to based on kind of the demand we saw present. I think what surprised us is the implications of growth and what some of the, not challenges, but opportunities of growth. Being flexible enough to pivot your business plan when needed, when you're hearing something from your clients, they want a different offering or they're liking this or they want a little bit more of that. I think finding that balance of you've got this idea of what you want everything to look like in your 3 and 5 year plan, and being flexible enough to change when needed to, yet sticking to your mission and your vision, and kind of bridging those things was important for us. And the other thing that I think surprised us was I think we probably planned on doing more of the instruction for longer, but with that growth, our roles really pivoted and changed into more of managing our team, managing our staff, and we realized that our energy and time was being better spent in that role. So taking a little bit of a step back from the instruction, putting more into our staff. We have a really incredible group of people working with us, and I think Laura and I have found as we're getting older, our passion is almost switching to kind of empowering our staff, teaching our staff, educating our staff into roles that we probably planned on doing yet. But now we have, girls helping us with our social media. We have our kind of HR mentor, consultant. So there's a lot of different things that I thought we would probably still be doing right now. And it's hard to give that up as a business owner, but it's been the biggest blessing to have people on our team that when we put our energy into them, we are getting tenfold, some of the productivity that we had been just when Laura and I were trying to do everything on our own. So that's kind of an expectation that I think has shifted in a really, really great way.
So in 2017, when you were working on your plans, if you had somebody said to you, well, you're not going to be able to do as much coaching in 7, 8 years, and you're just going to be telling employees and helping employees learn and doing planning for the future, would that have been something you signed up for?
I think so. And Laura, if you feel differently, obviously chime in. But I think that would still be something we would sign up for because it's cool. We still really have a pretty strong hold on the culture of our business. So I do feel that, our voice is still kind of echoing through some of the things that are happening in the facility, where we put a lot into our content and our drills and again, our staff, but finding the right people, you do see that you're able to, almost coach them up. And, it's almost funny because I think most kids don't even know Laura and I anymore. And we were at a camp this summer and Laura and I went. It was one of our bigger camps, and we have one of our staff members, our lead instructors, who's been with us forever. She trained with us when she's 10 and now she's 17, and she was like the director of our camps this summer. And we asked the kids, we're like, who knows? I said, who knows Coach Laura? And like, it was crickets and nobody knows us anymore. And then I said, who knows Coach Sarah? And the place went crazy. So, it's kind of cool to see, the business continue to be successful, even though we've assumed pretty different roles.
Okay. So I want to switch to Drea and Britt here. What were your expectations when you started the Motherhood Alliance, and how have they changed?
I was thinking about this question, and I think that when we started, we knew that there was a demand from our personal clients and from the, the businesses that we would interact with and stuff. But we felt confident that this would take off. We just didn't know how many other businesses would be interested in our directory style website and the connections that they could get from that. And, I think that, we were very pleasantly surprised to see that there's a lot of small businesses in this area, a lot of small health and wellness specifically. And, we're excited to see that there's more and more coming out of the woodwork. And so, I think our expectations have kind of stayed the same. I would also reflect on, what they were saying too, is that, our roles have to change a little bit because, we went from our other business with personal training. We had to move into this one, which is completely different. We basically turned ourselves into like a marketing business as well, which we didn't have experience with that originally. So we've had to change a lot and pivot a lot. And it's been a fun journey for that.
Okay. And Kelly, I'm going to change directions here with a question for you. Is with your need or desire to make sure you're balancing work and life, how do you decide when you're going to take time for yourself, and when do you say no to things, and how do you say no to things that may come up that you can't fit in?
Yeah, that was definitely a challenge early on. I was definitely a say yes to everything, all, exposure is good exposure. And it was really easy to get burned out early early on, again, because it's just me in the practice. I don't have anybody doing marketing. I don't have, I wasn't delegating a lot early on. So that definitely has had to change. There's been a few areas of the business side, the administrative side, that I've delegated. I now have somebody doing my bookkeeping and some other things. I like to do the things that I enjoy, which is kind of what I do with patients every day. I want to educate them on their bodies and how they work and how to stay as healthy as they can. So I love the opportunities to go out and talk about chiropractic, talk about how it can be beneficial for pregnant women and for kids. So yeah, the saying no to things was definitely a challenge early on, but it did get easier as I saw continued growth. Even though I narrowed down what I was doing, I made it more intentional and more specific to the types of patients that I want to see in my practice, and not making it just a very general decisions about what I was doing. And so that's definitely changed. Being more intentional for sure has improved my business and made things easier.
And so one of the things that's different about your business is you're doing something that 20 years ago could not have been done by a single person, in that the systems and processes had to have somebody to support them because of even the rules that were in place then. Today, you're able to do it with tools and systems and software. Could you talk a little bit about how you set up the processes in a way that makes you legally compliant and still be able to do all the things you have to under HIPAA healthcare rules?
Yeah, so the software I use is a cloud-based software, and it's actually primarily meant for like the therapy world. But they've done a great job of accommodating chiropractors and other providers. But yeah, it's an online system. It takes payments. It can do online scheduling. So my website has a widget in there that's the link for my online scheduling. So I rarely take a phone call. I'll communicate with patients via text or email, but everybody knows that that's kind of the fastest and most efficient way to schedule, is to go on the website, find the link. They'll be able to open up my calendar, my schedule, and find a time that works for them. Or if their schedule changes, they can make those last minute changes too. I don't, get panicked texts or messages saying, I need to change this around. Patients know how to do that. So yeah, I'm being the only person that, my patients know that if they're going to try and get a hold of me when I'm with patients, it's probably going to be after my shift. So, them being able to go in and do that has been really helpful with the business.
Okay. So, and Laura Maria, how do you take time for yourself? How do you say this is going to be my time with my spouse, with my family, or just the two of you together? How do you do that?
I think our husbands help again with that. Like, once we call each other 5 times a day, that's the limit when they start knocking on us a little bit. I think we're always going to kind of plan our days around our kids' schedule, our family schedule. I don't think we've mastered this at all yet, because I think typically the point we know that we need time for ourselves is when like our eye starts twitching or something and we're like, oh my gosh, like, why am I snapping at my kid? So usually we're probably a little bit late to take those breaks. Seasonally also, we do have different times of the year where we know we'll have a little bit more breathing room, and we know when we're going into busy season and kind of coming off a busy season. So I think just better understanding like our cyclical calendar has been helpful for us. And then just relying on other people. Like I said, I think in the past, it got to the point we did everything. There was just too much and the job was never done, and we didn't go to sleep feeling like, we were ready to start the next day sometimes. So just moving a lot of that stuff has really helped us find time away from our computer. Not working off our phones is another big one. We used to sit on our phone and all of a sudden you did like 30 messages and like 6 emails on your cell phone over the course of 4 hours, where now we try to be more intentional about setting time where we're working from our computer. We're not working when we're away from it. So, I think it's still definitely, a battle that we find ourselves in.
Okay. So, Soraya and Brett, I'll turn to you. How do you ensure that you take time for yourselves in this day where you're balancing a lot of time as a caregiver and running your business?
Well, both of us have school-aged kids now, so I will say now that our kids are in school, it is a lot easier than it was when they were little. Because when they were little, I just remember trying to do all the things at once, and you're on your computer answering an email because you're really excited about the email, and then your toddler's tapping on you, and it's just hard to balance both for sure. So I think looking back, I wish I would have asked for more help, to be transparent, so that I had standalone working time. But now that my kids are in school, those are my hours. When they're in school, that's all I can do. And so when they're home, I am mom. When they're at school, I am working. And that's been a major mental health blessing for me. Drea, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what Brittany says too. We try to keep the minimal things, you know, in the evenings off the table as much as possible. I would also say even during the day when my kids are in school, I will try to take like the last hour or half hour and go for a walk or read a book or do something that's not on my computer, not electrical, anything, not thinking about the business, just trying to really stay focused on something else. And I feel like that's really helped a lot too.
And one other thing I'll actually add that has been really good for me is we are fairly social media driven business, and I don't have social media on my phone. I don't. If I want to look at Facebook or check messages or somebody's like, hey, I sent you this link, I have to go on my computer to see it, which means it's during my designated work hours. But then for me personally, Drea does this as well. We get up early. We get up at 5, and so we start the day as ourselves. We don't start it as mom or as business owners necessarily. That's the time that we can do whatever we need to do to feel refreshed as ourselves. So those are some things that have helped me along my journey.
Okay, so we'll stick with Dre and Britt. Can you talk a little bit about what was missing in the support for women business owners that you saw because to be honest, it's, in my conversation with you, it came up before you started the business that there was a need there. So what did you see as a need for women in business to get support, and why did you think it was so important that you could help?
I would say it was personal experience. We had been entrepreneurs for a decade by the time we were starting Motherhood Alliance, and it was, like I had mentioned earlier, the skills that we had not yet learned and had to learn the hard way. And SCORE has been, Terry, and you and SCORE have been amazing in helping us walk through what we should be working on or focusing on, or even just pulling us back into that 10,000 foot view and encouraging us when we're down, telling us we are doing a good job. But I think, yeah, just knowing that that's where we came from, and then knowing where we're going, and knowing that other businesses are feeling the same way. And then for our business specifically, all of the businesses you see on the Motherhood Alliance directory, we've had conversations with. So we've heard their story. And so we hear straight from their mouths the things that they're struggling with. And if we can help serve them and help uplift them as a business and help them find the success that they're looking for, that's what fills our hearts.
Okay. So next topic I want to talk a little bit about is one of the points a business hits where it becomes very difficult to manage going forward is when you hit a pivot point and you have to make a change in the business. Now, 360U's had about 3 or 4 of those, all for positive reasons. But how did the two of you go about making the decision that you did to move, for instance, from doing it in Wrestlers in Parks to having your own building you were renting to having multiple buildings to now doing travel camps? How do you go making those businesses at key points?
Yeah, I think we really had to trust the process. Obviously, when we started, we decided we didn't want to be taking out a loan and kind of getting behind early. So we were literally like bouncing from outdoor cage to outdoor cage, praying for no rain, to kind of prove concept. And as we continued to prove concept, we knew and could feel more confident in those decisions, knowing that the demand was there, knowing that, the culture was right, our staff was right, our client base was loyal and would follow us if we did move into a building, which we've done a couple of times now. We've had 3 different moves. But I think trusting the process has been big for us. Sometimes you take a leap, but mostly we're trying to make pretty calculated decisions. And as Terry knows, we sometimes are risk averse and we try to push each other to make those risky decisions once in a while. But I think it's important for us, obviously, like Laura said, and a lot of you were, juggling family and everything else, where the stability the business has provided has been really awesome for our families. But I think the pivot points, you won't always expect them, but just trusting the process, trusting the timing, and knowing your your mission and your vision and if it aligns, there's a lot of conversations Laura and I go back to, like, what's our mission? And I think if we can really stay true to that, it really helps us. We are pretty big into our faith, so there are times where we're leaning on prayer and the Holy Spirit to kind of guide us on some of that too. But yeah, I think trusting the process and just taking calculated risks has been good for us, and we're still working on that. We're still trying to do better at that, but it's really helped us in a lot of different ways to be flexible and adaptable when you're not really sure what's next.
Okay, we have to take our final break. You are listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. I'd like to thank our sponsors and donors. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Haling & Associates. Haling & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for the future. Haling & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works to help you understand your goals and match banking and wealth services needed to complete your mission. Thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper contains relevant, useful information about the business community in the region. We'd like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation to BizTalk and SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. And finally, thank you to New North, a regional marketing and economic development corporation, for their promotion of SCORE. The New North facilitates economic growth and helps people in this region live their best lives. So, as we go into the final piece of our business here in the show, Dr. Kalista, could you talk a little bit more just about managing your business as a sole employee and how important scheduling is between family time, work time at work, and work time on the business when you're at home?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it earlier. My system that I have with my online scheduling has really helped make sure that whenever I'm in the business, I'm just focused on working with my patients. So, I work out of a single room and, I'm just constantly bringing my patients through and making sure that when they're in the room, all of my focus, all of my attention is on them. But then when I'm done with that cluster of patients, I'm able to take that hat off, go home and, take care of the home or whatever I might need to do here, take the kids where they need to go, really just, again, being intentional with the timing and when I'm doing things so that I'm not feeling the frazzle of, kind of like what Britt mentioned earlier of like a kid's tugging on me while I'm trying to answer an email, or it's, being able to be intentional with my time. And that's definitely not something that came easy to start, but definitely has gotten better with more and more practice. And as my kids get older and their needs change too. Okay.
So, Callie, could you let our listeners know how they can find out more about Sprout?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a website, sproutfamilychiro.com. And like I said, there you can schedule an appointment if you're interested in that. I also do offer a complimentary consult for anybody who just wants to kind of learn about what chiropractic is and how it might apply to them specifically. And then I'm on social media at Sprout Family Chiro at Facebook and on Instagram. And yeah, you can email me at drcallie@sproutfamilychiro.com as well.
Okay, let's go to the Motherhood Alliance. Can you let our listeners know how to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can check us out on our website at motherhoodalliance.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Motherhood Alliance. And if you have any questions at all, you can always email us at hello@motherhoodalliance.com.
All right, great. We'll turn to 360U.
Yeah, we can be reached via email. Within 24 hours, you'll usually get a response. We're in there all the time, as everyone here knows that. It's the360u@yahoo.com. You can contact us through our website, which is www.the360u.com. And we are active on our Facebook and our Instagram as well, which is at 360u.
Okay. And again, I want to thank everybody for being on today. It's an interesting topic to talk through. To be honest, if I was writing up the initial outline again, I thought, well, I could do this for 2 or 3 hours and have different questions and actually go through them in more depth. But an hour was good to get people to hear about it. But we really do appreciate you coming on and letting people know about how you work through some of these issues and opportunities with work-life balance. So thank you very much. So for our listeners, thanks again for joining in. We really appreciate you. You can find this show, and once it's been on the air, you'll find it at our website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. Or you can go on to all sorts of podcatchers like iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, and others, and you'll find the podcast there as well. Really do appreciate having you join in, and we look forward to talking to you again next week. Take care, everyone.